They told you that you were burning. They named your pain as identity, and you believed them. You took the heat of your life, the betrayal, the collapse, the grief, and assumed it meant you were the fire. But listen to me now. You were never inside the fire. The pain was real. The suffering was not who you are. Rupert Spira once said, "The body feels pain. The self does not suffer." Now that line is rupture. It's the difference between what happens to you and who you truly are. It's not that suffering is false. It's that the self who suffers is imagined. There is pain, but there is also the one watching the pain, and that one is untouched. The problem is most people don't live from the witness, they live from the wound. They build identity from agony. They weld their sense of self to the worst thing that ever happened. It becomes their mythology. This is why I am the way I am, they say. But that story isn't sacred, it's captivity. Because the moment you mistake your fire for your essence, you hand your coherence over to distortion and start naming it growth. Let me speak personally for a moment. I've been scorched like you would not believe, by love, by silence, by choices I had to make for coherence's sake. I've watched people I cared about vanish, not because they died, but because my clarity made it impossible for them to stay. And in those moments I felt the sear of it, but I never became the fire. I became the stillness inside it, not out of detachment, but out of structural memory. Because the deeper I went into the ache, the more I remembered something that never moved. This is what I'm speaking into now. This isn't spiritual bypass. This isn't denial of grief or hurt or loss. This is remembering that the one who sees the pain is not the one bound by it. It's the difference between I am in pain and pain is arising in the field of me. That shift, that subtle shift, that's liberation. Not because the pain vanishes, but because you no longer fracture inside it. Some men never stop burning, not because the fire still rages, but because they keep stoking the story of betrayal, the story of abandonment, the story of not being chosen. And every time someone gets close, they throw another log onto the fire, because if they stop telling that story, they fear they'll become invisible. But that's a lie. You do not disappear when you release the wound. You reappear. You uncover. You unravel. The identity built on suffering is a castle made of smoke. You can decorate it, you can fortify it, call it your origin, but it will never hold weight, because suffering is not a home, it is simply a visitor. And the moment you make it a name, you begin to shrink your signal to match your pain. So let's make this very clear. Pain is sensation. Suffering is attachment. You are not your ache. You are not your collapse. You are not the moment they walked away or the years you spent misunderstood. You are what remained, silent, whole, even as your world came undone. And that part of you was never touched by fire. If you're listening to this and you can feel the heat of your own story still gripping you, ask yourself this: who would I be without the burn? Not without the memory, but without the identification to the burn. Without the need to keep telling it in order to feel seen. That's the architecture shift. This isn't a call to erase your past. It's a call to dislodge your name from it. You're not the child who wasn't protected. You're not the man who was betrayed. You are not the collapse of a relationship or the echo of a former self. You are the structure that witnessed all of that and is still standing. What if I told you there is nothing to heal, only something to perceive differently? The wound isn't you, the fire is not you. Even the one who screamed inside the fire isn't the one who's speaking now. You are the clarity that watched him scream and remained. The real liberation is not about finding peace. It's about realizing you never actually left it. You only forgot. You mistook the flames for who you had become, but the flames pass and you remain. So here's what I say to the ones still clinging to smoke. Put it down. You've already walked through it. You've already proven your endurance. You don't need to keep wearing the heat like it's a badge. There's more life waiting, but it won't enter until you stop using pain as a doorway. You are not forged by fire, you are revealed by it. Welcome to The Architect Speaks.